Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I am spiritual guide and paranormal adept. And today I'm titling this whole series The Journey, kind of like the journal, if you will. It's a good way to get started. I used to write my journal out by hand and, go through thoughts and what have you that I was running through. There's nothing wrong with it. It helps. It's fascinating when you look back over things, how much you see that's transpired, how much things have changed, and in some cases, how much they've stayed the same. I'm still dealing with the same fight that I've been dealing with for decades. Where do I fit? How do I fit in? How does everything come together? And in all fairness, you're probably going through similar questions. Most people that I talk to are. They'll sit there going, "How am I supposed to deal with all of this?" Well, you deal with it one step at a time. There is no, if you will, right answer. Okay. From my standpoint, it's very simple. If I explain to you what what I've personally gone through, you know, part of it is explain to you that you're not alone in this. It's one thing to hear people say, for people to go, "Oh, I've been where you are," right, and I can sympathize where you are, etc. The sad part is a lot of what I've gone through. I've told people for years my life is more like science fiction than anything else. Now, if you're watching these on a daily basis, you'll see changes happen. Okay, stuff will go missing from behind me. Stuff will get reorganized, and that's just the way it's going to go. But for the way that I look at it, first things first. Okay, don't need that letter opener, it's in the way. First rule of thumb, when you're going to change something, make certain that you have an idea of what you're changing, or more to the point, of what you don't desire. Okay, it's far easier to take a look at your life, I found, and say, what am I happy with? What am I content with? Than it is to go, what would I like my life to look like? Okay, down the road, I want to have a big house. I want to have lots of money, all of this. It's all a great thought process. But how do you know? Like, how could I have looked at the future and gone, I really desire to write? Okay, and gone, that's where I'm going to put all my focus. Probably would have been an idea at this point, and this is where, and I'm probably going to repeat myself a number of times over the next little while. If you look at my old journal entries, they repeated themselves a lot because I was constantly going through the same set of questions. Okay, now, the biggest misconception, or one of the biggest misconceptions, is that you've got to have your life in order by the time you're 20 in order to get ahead. Now, in order to be successful. Well, of course, I think yesterday we were talking about what success is. What it really boils down to and how to get there. And we undoubtedly will end up touching on that again, but here's the real kicker to it. When I was growing up, and probably when you were, and maybe you yourself right now are still being told the same thing, that in order to be successful, you've got to have a plan in place by the time you're 20. It's a wonderful thought, but the reality is far different. From my experience with over 80,000 clients under my belt, I have found that most people do not have a clue what they want to do when they grow up until they're in their late 40s, early 50s. I was talking to one young lad the other day, and he told me quite frankly, he says, I was told that for years, right? That, he says, you've been telling me that for years, that I don't have to have my life in order until later. But he says, unfortunately, he says, everybody else told me that I needed to get my life in order, hence why I went down the road in school I did, which he said turned out to be completely wrong. He says, I wish I had been able to listen to you, but it was one against the world. And here's the funny thing. I heard it put on a movie the other day. Trying to remember which one. Oh, it was, I believe it was Civil War, the Avengers Civil War, where, where Black Widow told Captain America, you owe it to yourself, even if the whole of the world is telling you what you're doing feels wrong, and there's something inside you that says that's the road you've got to go down. You owe it to yourself to follow that path. Now there are guidelines in that. Okay, karmic law: be true to yourself, do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. Energy out, energy in. Okay. As long as you're following that, do understand when we talk about what you feel, no matter what anybody says, is the road to go down, there is a very big problem there. Okay, you still have to follow the laws of the land in which you are. Okay, so you can't just go around and go out and go, I want to do that, regardless of anybody else, because the reality is, I think they call that sociopath. And I don't think anybody, that many of you out there are sociopaths, and the ones that are going to pay attention to me anyway. But I came to the conclusion that in order to get things organized, I was going to have to make a definitive and focused effort to do so. So the reason I have I've got a sheet of paper beside me, this thing, which is what I keep looking over here for, because I jot little notes down on things that I've got to get done. I never did learn how to do one thing at a time, in case you haven't noticed. Okay, so bear with me on that. Oh, by the way, maybe I should have done this earlier. Well, no, I really should have done this earlier. Right now, this is March 9th of 2021, and right now the clock on the computer says it is 3:18 a.m. This is why I say my schedule is completely hooked. If you look at the other videos in the journey here, as we travel along this journey, you'll find that times come up at really weird times. Now, the intriguing part, the one consistency, is usually within an hour of getting up, I'm doing these videos up. Okay, so needless to say, it's not quite stable. It's not a static schedule, aside from that part. What I'm actually writing down here is the number of different series that I'm writing. I don't write in only one genre. Okay, but everything is tied together. Now, you can see the stacks behind me. What you don't see is the filing cabinet over here. I've got a couple of other shelves over here with paperwork on it. Okay, with old files and what have you that I'm going through and throwing out. Of course, that funny little sheet hanging on the wall back here, that would actually be my business license. Okay. They tell you put it someplace where it's visible. Well, that's about as visible as it gets. So, things are changing. And the real catch to it is doing this. Where do I desire my life not to be? What am I not content with? Well, I'm not content with this mess behind me, so I've been working at it. Okay, and as I get paperwork sorted out and copied where I need it, it gets tossed. And you'll find that happens over the next little while. Just keep an eye on the back there. That'll give you an idea. Even on this shelf here, these shelves will get straightened out. Okay, it's just a question of deciding what you desire. Now, the real trick is, it's not a question of where do I want my life to be? Where do I desire my life to go? It's a question of where is my life right now? It doesn't really matter how you got to where you are. What matters is where you go from here. Okay. It's up to you whether you're going to be successful in any capacity, but you've got to determine what you feel success is. So when I look at the writing I do, now I don't do one thing at a time, obviously. Okay. But I have multiple books that I'm working on, multiple series that I'm working on. Okay. That I'm aiming at getting all of them out into publication. Right now, I'm the only one that you can get anything from. Like any of the books I've written, I'm the only way to get it. Okay, and if hopefully you will give me a thumbs up on the video, subscribe to my channel to get the rest of the information. Okay, and at the bottom of every video, you'll find a list of contact points. So if you've got questions, if you've got specific concerns, even if you're facing a particular complication that you do not know how to deal with, drop me a line and I will do my best to respond and see what we can do about putting you back on the right track. Okay, all in all, there is a lot going on. Okay, there's a lot of things that are happening and a lot of changes that will take place. Now, the one consistency in life is change. Okay, so where do I go from here? Well, quite frankly, it's a question of getting organized. Not necessarily my strongest suit, but think of it this way. Now, um, when I mentioned that my life is more like science fiction than anywhere else. Okay, so I've been thinking about it, and trying to hide where I'm standing, trying to fit into what society sees has proven to be a 57-year struggle that really has led nowhere. Okay, the trick is not to fit in with society. The trick is to follow what society's rules and laws are. Okay, and there is a problem with some of that, but we'll discuss that later. The issue right now is it's not a question of finding out how you fit in with society. It's a question of how you fit in with you. How well do you accept you? Are you functional in your eyes? Are you content with you? If you're not content with you, it won't matter how much society thinks. Okay, I've talked to a lot of people that are what most people call celebrity status. A lot of the people that are living in the spotlight, they are living in a world they don't actually like. Okay, it was supposed to be, I want to get into the spotlight, I want to act, I want to become a professional, I want to become a performer. And then the pressures that people put on them make that life absolutely miserable. Now, what people forget is they're just people. Politicians get a bad rap because everybody goes, oh, they're all crooked. Well, the sad reality is every person on the planet desires the same things. Okay, when you really boil it down, people desire a roof over their head, they desire food in their belly, and they desire respect. They desire respect from everybody, and they really do desire somebody in their life. A lot of you have looked at relationships and gone, no way, I don't want somebody near me because it's just bad news. A lot of that comes from the relationships they've seen before. Now, I lucked out. Okay, where it came to my family, to my parents, right? 65 years under one roof. And I honestly don't recall a fight. Okay, they have passed on, so can't talk to them about that anymore. Well, I can, but the reality of it is, when you look at what you've been through, now we're not going to discuss how you got there. Okay, we won't argue the point that you may see your life as being absolutely miserable for the first, 20, 30, 40 years, whatever age you are. Started about age 10 and go, my life was miserable. Okay, it may have been miserable before that. The fact it was miserable, we won't argue with. Okay, it could have been. Okay, you might have been overlooking things, you might have been not seeing what was going on and just reacting. It makes sense. But what we can do something with is look at where you are right this second. Right here, right now. This is where your life changes. This is where you take control of your life and go, what am I doing with it? Okay. Now, one of the biggest tricks that I found a long time ago, and it sounds simple, but it works. You don't have to believe me. Okay, I'm telling you, it's not a question of believe me. I'm telling you this, therefore I'm being honest. I had somebody tell me one day, and it was this. For me, it was the worst thing they could have said. I told them as much. They were trying to convince me to give them money. Okay, to invest in something they were working on. And the guy turned around and he goes, "Trust me, I'm a God-fearing Christian. And, I wouldn't lie to you." Well, I looked at him and I went, that was probably the worst thing you could have told me. And here's why I said that. It's not that I've got anything against Christians, but when I was in Sunday school, when I was a kid, okay, my dad had built a phenomenal youth group. He took everybody in. He literally told them. He says, he goes, "Look, if you're between 6 and 18, come to our youth group. I don't care what denomination you are. I don't care what religion you are. Don't care what you are. Your color doesn't matter. If you fall in these ages, you come to the youth group." Now, understand, we are a Christian-based group, so we will be following that doctrine. But you're welcome. If you're over 18, come to the group and give us a hand. We need the help, right? Now, that was great. He took it in a period of 13 years. He took it from 40 people to 240 people. And then one day, a pastor walked in, because we got a pastor every 3 or 4 years because we were on a military base. A pastor walked in. Now, this is a guy that is supposed to be teaching, overall love. God loves all his children, etc., etc. This guy walks into the Sunday school or into the youth group, and he goes, "If you're not of this specific denomination, get out." Now, right there, that was somebody telling me that they were a God-fearing Christian, and they just ostracized everybody and just decimated everything my dad had built. Now, for this other guy to come to me and tell me I'm a God-fearing Christian, you can see why I told him that was the worst thing. At least I hope you can see why I said that was the worst thing he could have told me. Now, from my standpoint, your level, whatever you call success, is up to you. Okay, what I was writing down here is 5 different series I'm working on. Okay, actually, technically, I guess it would be 6 when I think of it. 6, 7, yeah, 7. Because here's the thing, and this is what I do in my spare time, if I ever had any. Needless to say, I don't sleep a lot. I mean, let's face it, I went to sleep at about 10:30 last night. I was up by 2 o'clock this morning. Okay, nope, that's not true. It was about 1:30. It was about 1:30 when I got out of bed. Needless to say, not a lot of sleep. But there are there are 7 different venues that I am working in. Okay, where it comes to writing, and this is how everybody finds a way to escape, to wind down, to settle their head. I haven't found mine yet. So what I've got is 7 different venues. Now, I've got science fiction writing that I'm doing, science fiction, science fantasy, which is the Yldrbac Chronicles. Then I've got the Believe in series. Believe in yourself, believe in your business. I'm currently working on Believe in your career. Then I've got this new book that I decided that came to mind, which is the 4 P's of success: purpose, plan, persistence, and try that again. Purpose, plan, persistence, and patience. Okay, and we will be getting to those shortly. Okay, still debating which way to go with what. Okay, then we've got the reference manuals, Races of the Worlds, the children's books, Mr. Dreamcatcher, a poetic anthology, and a couple of books that other people are working on that I'm going to be looking into helping them get published. Now, that being said, I am just a single person. Okay. I do have a lot of people around me that are very helpful. But I decided I was changing my life. It was that simple, and I'm not doing it for anybody but me. Okay. And yes, like you, I also have hobbies. Now, I am not a mechanic. I mean, I'm mechanically inclined. I fully admit, whenever I'm inclined, I phone the mechanic. Okay. But I also sit down. I'm teaching myself to draw. That's not going well. I do know how to crochet basic things, and I've made a couple of blankets for myself and for other people. These are just some of the things that I work on. And again, it boils down to going, I'm not content with certain aspects of my life. Okay, so I'm deliberately changing them. And the things that I'm talking to you about, partly it helps get it in and get it straight in my own head, whether or not I'm making headway. Part of it is that hopefully something will twig and encourage you to take your life and change it into something, something that you're happy with. Now, the reality behind it is you have to figure out what you call success. Is success for you just simply roof over your head, bills all paid, stable income? If that's your definition of success, that is great. Nobody can tell you it's wrong. Okay, the one thing that you got to keep in mind, your opinion it's not possible for your opinion to be wrong. Your opinion may be misguided, you may be dealing with facts that are not quite accurate, but your opinion is still correct. Do not let anybody tell you otherwise. But do yourself a favor. Do not let your frustration with the world or with anybody in particular may let your temper get out of hand. That is one of the biggest challenges that I personally have, which is also one of the reasons why I stay away from people. Okay, I really am very reclusive. Okay, I leave the house. I've got one restaurant to go to, the grocery stores, the post office, and I go for a walk in the park. And that's it. Other than that, I stay home. Which, by the way, has its own drawbacks when you think about the fact I've also got a son. Right. And I'm not exactly what you call the best socializer on the planet. Matter of fact, I'm not even considered a good one in my eyes. I've been told all sorts of things on that one. But get straight in your own head what you see as success. Then eliminate everything in your life that doesn't lead towards that. Okay, now you may make mistakes. You may make, I call them mistakes, as in you didn't know better and you just oops. You will go down roads that you'll have to turn around and come back. Kind of, let's try that. No, that's a dead end. Come back and start over. Okay, I've done that a number of times. This is the first time that I've really decided that, and I'm doing my absolute level best to get things organized to make certain that I stay on track for me. Okay, so what you look at is where are you standing? Where do you desire your life to go? Okay, absolutely. If you don't know, talk to people around you. You may have to try something if you're young, and maybe we should put it if you're young at heart, or you just, for whatever reason, you've been stuck in a rut for too long and you just are not content, but you don't know where to go. Talk to people around you. Give different things a try, but stay on the legal side of things. This idea of cutting corners, getting a quick fix, getting a quick cure, on the whole, doesn't work. Okay, it may work for a bit, but there's a proven statistic I've heard about Most people that go, I really want a lot of money, they get a windfall, and within 3 years, they've got less money than they had before they got the windfall. And we're talking lottery winners, you know, inheritances. They get this massive chunk of money, and all of a sudden they're in worse shape than they were to start with. Okay, so it's a temporary fix at best if you do things one step at a time. Like right now, I've got my own financial book set up so that I can look at it and go, okay, in January I made more money. I had more money come in than went out. Or yeah, I did, because at that in January of this year, my mom's estate finally started to clear, so I had a lot of money coming in. Plus, of course, back stuff from income tax and what have you was coming through. So I had more money coming in. But the last 2 months, because I've been paying off old bills, because I've been getting rid of things I didn't need, right? What's ended up happening is I've actually spent more money than I made, which is okay. Okay. Now, the biggest miscalculation that most parents make, in my opinion, one of the biggest ones, is not showing your kids what the finances are that you're going through. If you don't show your kids what the financial side effects are and where the stresses are, how are they possibly going to learn to deal with them themselves? You want them to go out there in the world on their own and figure it out the same way you did? I personally don't see that as a good option, but that's my opinion. Now, on that note, I'm going to leave you with it because I keep these to the half-hour mark for a reason. But absolutely give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel. Ideally, we're aiming for the stars. I forgot to check what our limit was at this point, or more to the point, what our subscription level was. We are aiming for the stars. Okay, we were always told aim for the stars. You may only make the moon, but at least you get off the planet. So we're going to leave you at this for the time being, and we'll talk again tomorrow. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.